And we're live. Welcome, Forrest. Welcome, Jake. Welcome, everyone, to the new release notes, so version 5.4. Forrest, Jake, there have been like a lot of updates and a lot of changes around like automation in PagerDuty. So, what do you have for us this week?
Right. So we released the 5.40 release back on the 18th, so last week. And let me just bring up, as usual, the release notes, and we'll
Sure.
we'll chat about a few things. So here we have the release notes. One reminder from I think that Jake and Tiago talked about this while I was out on my PTO during the 5.30, but we've changed the name of Process Automation on-prem
Yeah.
to Runbook Automation self-hosted. So now both products, the SaaS and the self-hosted, fall under the same name. Simplifies things, both on our side and for everyone to refer to it. And let's dive into the 5.4.
Let's do that.
We have Everest Mountain this time and a deep pink piggy bank. Jake, I'm sure that we want to remind folks about the Project Runner Management Early Access program. How's that been going so far, and what's the customer feedback been?
Yeah, so we figured we'd call it out here. We know that customers don't necessarily follow every single release note, so given that it's a pretty significant enhancement, we wanted to call it out again here, and note that the early access is still available. So the sum up is being able to manage and control runners from within the project context, giving teams even more autonomy over their runners and giving them even more flexibility over their automation. And so far, it's been really good. The feedback from customers is that this is aligning with how they intend on using the platform as a way to give teams even more again, autonomy over what they're doing within their projects and decrease the dependencies within on the tool admins and give teams more control without worrying about stepping on the toes of other teams that are using the centralized cluster. So whether that's installing dependencies that they need for their automation or using the local file system, temp directories, and then cleaning those up. All of that can now be done on the runners host. And so being able to, for teams to manage and deploy their own runners within their projects is what this is all about. So that's what our customers are telling us is the big value unlock for them here. So far the feedback has been good, but we are still eager to engage with even more customers as well.
Perfect.
Great. So yeah, you can check that out. And then for a deeper dive into that, our video recap from the 5.3 release is out here and posted on the release notes site. So you can always come back and check that out if you missed the 5.3 or want a refresher on what that feature really is. Jake does a great deep dive demo on that. I'm going to skip over the CyberArk. I think that we'll let Jake, take that over for the second half, but we'll look down at some of the open source updates and additional updates. A little bit lighter list, I think. The last release was so heavy that we have a little bit lighter one this round. We did address a few CVEs out there for those that are scanning and looking to keep things up to date. This was related to a Netty vulnerability, but it was also showing up as part of that AWS SDK. So we got those updated. A few other fixes with some 404 errors that we I think Jake and I changed the doc site so much that our poor engineering team couldn't keep up and ran into a few issues there. But it's all for good intentions and trying to get all the right information out here on the site. Some additional Docker, images being able to build on ARM64. Ironically, this came up like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure I'd necessarily recommend running run deck on a Raspberry Pi, but it's possible now. So if that's your appliance of choice, I might try it. I've got one over here on my desk that has a decent amount of power, not enough, but might be fun for a reason. And yeah, just a variety of other fixes. So with that, maybe I'll shift it over. We did some enhancements to our CyberArk integration. CyberArk's proven to be a very great partner for us. A lot of customers are using it, and we're trying to keep up on their best practices for configuring and using integrations. And this was driven by a few key customers that really wanted to use their new REST API. So I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. So the demo for this would be pretty straightforward, just showing the configuration of CyberArk in the product. The critical difference here is that previously users would configure their credentials for communicating with the REST API as just the username and password, and that's the auth that CyberArk permits for the REST API. But what was brought to our attention is that actually best practice is to talk directly to what they call the central credential provider, or CCP, and talk to that directly to retrieve the REST credentials, and then use those retrieved REST credentials to then talk to the REST API to then list out all of the safes and then all of the keys within those safes. And this allows customers to be rotating those REST credentials on a regular basis. And that is recommended best practice from CyberArk. In addition, some customers, the way they'll deploy CyberArk is they'll have the central credential provider at one endpoint, and then the web server for the REST API at another endpoint. If memory serves correct, that's kind of how that deployment can work. And so some customers have separate endpoints for those two components of the CyberArk deployment. And this release now allows customers to define two separate endpoints for that more sophisticated setup. And whereas previously we just had the one base URL. The mode here is also something new, wherein some customers that are more security conscious have disabled or just haven't enabled the REST API for CyberArk, and so they want our integration just talk to that central credential provider directly. And so now with the mode, you can use a REST or what we call a CCP mode, and that will just talk to the CCP directly, not use the REST API. The only caveat there is that you have to specify the key path in CyberArk that you need directly. We can't list out the keys, but pretty straightforward. Again, just like our other key storage integrations, once you have that configured, it shows up as a directory in our key storage tree. This then lists all of the safes, and then once in here, you can, I don't know if we actually have any keys in any of these safes, but once in them, then you would see the actual keys. We've also done some work on the integration from the runner, the enterprise runner, to CyberArk, and this means that our SaaS customers can integrate with CyberArk because you need these key stores to be able to talk to CyberArk, and CyberArk is deployed self-hosted, and it also means that if you have a centralized cluster, self-hosted Runbook Automation cluster, you can use the enterprise runner to talk to CyberArk if CyberArk is deployed within a boundary that Runbook Automation does not have direct access to. So we've done plenty of work there to make the enterprise runner integrate with CyberArk directly as well.
Yeah, cool. And it's really interesting to see, like, you had an initial approach to this, and now you're kind of implementing best practices and learning from what customers are doing. I had a question here, Jake. So you showed us like the secrets and the different different keys and folders that you have here. So if you have the CCP mode that you mentioned earlier enabled, so this is something that you are not able to get. Is that correct? Or so like the automated list of like saves and credentials, will you still be able to get this?
So when you have the CCP mode, it won't actually list all the safes and all of the keys. Yeah. Instead, when you want to use a secret from CyberArk within that mode, you would then actually specify the full path in your, as your node attributes or as your secret job option or whatever that might be.
Yeah.
In many cases, right, you're specifying that secret path like as a node attribute within your from your node source or in your node executor, and so you don't need to specify it on per job basis because it's just specified on the node itself. So in many cases, it's not that laborious to get around or to use. Again, that is not necessarily a best practice that CyberArk recommends. That's just for our most security stringent customers.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that's the demo on CyberArk integration that you've done on this new release. We have mentioned project-based runner management, which is something that we shared also on the comments. So if you want to access the early access form, you can do it through the release notes page, or you can do it through the link that we shared on the chat, and the link is pretty straightforward. So it's just PagerDuty.com/early access, and you'll be able to get into this early access and experiment with it. And Jake and Forrest would love to get your feedback on this specific feature. And guys, is there anything else that you would like to share regarding 5.4 or regarding the product? Any other thing that you are potentially working for the next release? Anything major coming? Is there anything you'd like to share?
You read my mind. The reason, or one of the reasons, that this release is actually fairly light on features and feature enhancements is that next release should be fairly significant. And the small hint is that for customers using the runner, using our distributed automation, or thinking about using it, this one's for you. And all I can say is that we're pretty excited about it. It's going to make deploying and then using the runners and authoring jobs and invoking jobs that use runners much simpler, much easier. This one is for the job authors. Let's just put it that way. And so we're pretty excited about it. So 5.5 will be a pretty big one. And then, if all things go according to plan, 5.6 will also be pretty significant, more so on the plugin side. And that's all I'll say there. But I would definitely recommend tuning in for 5.5.
Cool, interesting. I'm excited about it, and anxious to see what you came up with.
And we skipped our usual lead in. I wore my silly hat this time because our 4th of July Independence Day is coming up next week. Looks like Jake skipped the zip up this time, but it's probably hot. It's summertime, and rather warm, and we're both based in California, so.
Yeah, I don't need the long sleeve pullover today.
So we look forward to the exciting 5.5 release. That's due, I'm just going to say, late July at this point. The date does sometimes shift so that we can ensure we're delivering well, and we look forward to talking to everyone then.
Perfect. Yeah, once again, Jake, Forrest, it was great to have you on the show and talk to you, and then to see the new features that you are working on. It's really exciting, and late July is just perfect because before I go on summer holidays, and so I really want to experiment before I go.
Great.
So yeah, thank you so much, guys, and
course.
yeah, talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.